In the deep, dark future, in a galaxy riddled with turmoil and chaos, lies Niro VII. A world of endless industry, whose inhabitants are oblivious to the perils beyond. Due to forced labor and indentured servitude, the inhabitants of Niro VII have little time to think of the stars above. Until now. Prepare yourself for Niro VII, a gothic, planetary chronicle.
Hello, greetings, and welcome to the Emperor's Eye. I'm your host, Zardard and Kazriel, coming at ya. And I'm here with my co-host, as always, Kazriel Brenos, bringing you the happenings here on Niro VII and the local galactic neighborhood. On today's episode, we have the news, followed by a deep dive into the Dark Boundary with our guest, Dr. Brevix Aphex-SIM. We also have several field correspondents bringing us the latest on the skirmishes in and around the Rebel combat red zones, planetside and abroad. So stay tuned for that.
Hello, citizens of Niro VII, and welcome to the Emperor's Eye. This is Kazriel Brenos. We here on the Emperor's Eye are very much so looking forward to hearing first-hand knowledge and accounts from Dr. Brevix and his exploration of the Dark Boundary. We are also accompanied by our friendly servitor bot, Mr. McMarneyface, who just dropped me a fresh hot packet of Biogel 3.6, and I truly can't wait to feel the gel. Thank you, Mr. McMarneyface.
You're welcome.
Today, we are broadcasting from a tavern in the R&D Sector 1, a tavern called the Rusty Cog, old Zardard here's former stomping ground.
I did more than just stomp, if that's what you're implying. But that's a story for another time.
I'm sure you did, Zardard. I'm sure you did. Now, for our first story of the evening, we're going to the fifth moon of Niro VII. I have brothers of the Cosmic Knights dispatched there, along with a battalion of guardsmen, to try and uproot the vile Canadids that have taken hold of the once glorious moon. The stronghold the Canadids have on this moon is a sight of horror and brutality against the citizens of the Niro Star Cluster and the Empire. Now to our correspondent in the field, Sergeant Grex Tharm of the Cosmic Knights' 2nd Company. Sergeant Tharm?
Thank you, Commander Branos. We have been stationed here amongst the scum infestation of the Niro Star Cluster on the northernmost quadrant of the Nexus Plateau. It is myself and 12 other Cosmic Knights, as well as a battalion of guardsmen from the Niro VII Defense Forces. Our primary objective is to form a spearhead to lead into the heart of the Canadid hive mind. We have intel that leads us to believe that the brain of the hive mind is located in the innermost caves of the moon's painted mountains. The guardsmen here have given it the nickname Death Mountain, due to every scout team we've sent there has turned up dead or not at all.
What kind of creatures have you come across on the surface of this moon, Sergeant?
Thus far, it's mostly been waves of the Canadid rebel hybrids and other more beastly creatures that we haven't quite seen up close yet. We'll relay the details once we have more data.
Thank you, Sergeant. Any bit of news before we turn over to a word from our local sponsors?
We do have multiple night raids scheduled soon, but the where and when will remain classified, as the environment here is very hostile. More news will trickle down as we complete missions and report back.
Again, thank you, Sergeant. Stay safe and stay vigilant. Imperialis Aeternus.
Imperialis Aeternus.
Alrighty, folks. That was Sergeant Grex Tharm of the Cosmic Knights, 2nd Company. Before we move on with tonight's broadcast, we'd like to bring you a word from our local sponsors.
Good evening. My name is Hitchman 3.14-2. In order to avoid the Emperor's extermination chambers, I use Biogel 3.6. This helps me to make my quota and be most productive. Wow, I feel better already. Alrighty there, pretty mama. Yes, it feels great. And I feel its goodness. I feel the burn. A huck and burn. Biogel 3.6. Feel the gel. Oh.
Greetings, citizens of Niro VII. This is Commander Kazriel Branos of the Cosmic Knights First Company, and we want you to serve with us on the front against the scourge of the galaxy. You'll get your own 20mm assault carbine, a standard issue chainsaw, and the finest armor in the universe. You'll get to travel to the distant reaches of the galaxy, from the jungles of Kason 12 to the blood world of blood. Your body will be genetically restructured to the very peak of human perfection. Your mind will be numbed to the weakness of normality. Your 49-hour workdays will be a thing of the past. Join us today, or rot in the fucking hells you currently exist in. This message is brought to you by the Cosmic Knights. See your local recruiter today for your genetic verification. Be better than the rest in the Cosmic Knights.
Hey there, brother. It's me, the former governor of Parallax 5 system. Space, Jesse, the body, Ventura, dude. It's been around 40 cycles since I've been in office, but the cigars are flowing like white-hot lava, brother. I'm on my 7th wife and my 63rd child, but that hasn't slowed me down one bit. No way! Thanks to Wake Tech Stims XL. The luxury stimulant injectable. Why am I doing commercials, you may ask? Well, I have at least 12 palatial mansions on 10 different paradise worlds, dude. And Papa's gotta pay those bills. You know how it goes. One small injection into your scrotum or labia, brother, and you're off for a minimum of 3 days. I'm coming for the office of the Niro Star Cluster. And these Wake Tech Stims are keeping me on my A game. Avoid the weakness of sleep with Wake Tech Stims XL, brother.
Remember, citizens, be better than the rest in the Cosmic Knights.
Tell me, Commander Branos, how many of these recruits have you had from this commercial?
We've had one viable candidate.
Out of how many?
Approximately 1 million.
By the space gods.
Yeah, to be the best, and to become the best, you must already be the best.
Well, I was going to say, that's pretty good odds
Yeah,
for the Cosmic Knights.
it's not too bad. Now, for our deep dive into the Dark Boundary, we bring you the infamous Dr. Brevix Aphex-SIM. He's been studying the Dark Boundary and the creatures therein for at least 200 cycles, and has been on the cutting edge of developing the weapons against them. Zardard, you worked side by side with the good doctor for 100 cycles or so. What were you two working on?
We were perfecting the drone vat technology. I personally invented a more functionally sound thermal coupling head, and improved the formula for the incubation fluid. A more nutritious fluid makes for a more viable drone unit. We also introduced the cloning bats. And we were really pumping out the working class. The Emperor was quite pleased with our progress and promoted me to Archlord. And that's when we started up the Emperor's Eye.
I'm looking forward to seeing the two of you back in your element again. Speaking of which, here comes Dr. Brevix now.
Ah, greetings! Welcome, old friend.
Good to see you again, Lord Zardard. Commander Branos, it's a pleasure to finally have a spot on the show.
Dr. Brevix, thank you for coming in today. I know many citizens around Niro VII are eager to hear of your knowledge of the Canidid Scourge. How were your travels today?
I live in the sector, so it was merely a brisk walk to the tavern. The Canidids are quite fascinating, but there's still a lot of work to be done on finding the remedy for their infestation.
Now I understand you've spent a long time studying the creatures of the Dark Boundary, and hear tell you were the one who discovered they were a hive mind, making you the foremost researcher. Can you give us some insight on how your research led to this discovery?
Absolutely. These creatures are most vile. I'm sure you're aware of their distinct odor. Something like loose stool over cooked vegetable farts. They come in 9 separate classifications. The most common being the wormling. They have a rather sharp, knife-like appendage on their forearm, and more worm-like compression of their outer carapace in rectilinear locomotion. They also have a pincer cerci on their rear to protect the soft flesh of their anus.
I'm going to stop you there, Doctor. One question that's been burning holes in my mind. What do they taste like?
A most excellent question. Have you ever had salted drone meat? It's comparable in taste to that, with a slight tinge of acidity. It would actually make a great supplement to the rations of our guardsmen and cosmic knights. Very high protein content.
Apologies for cutting in, but I wanted to go back to discussing the hive mind. Can you tell us how you discovered that the Canidids operated as a hive mind?
Yes. The Canidid has an organelle in their brain sac, which acts as a receiver for the High Leader, or Queen's signal. This is sort of a control mechanism, which triggers a response from the Canidid in the field, either enticing them to attack or shield another of the Canidids from attack. We're still searching for a creature that can transmit these signals, but there's still further study needed to understand how the process really works.
Very interesting indeed. And when you say we are still searching for a creature, who do you mean? And what could these creatures be?
I'm speaking of myself and an elite group of researchers from within the R&D sector. There's a higher tier of creature in the Canidid species that acts as a control unit. They direct the lesser Canidid evolutions on the battlefield and with the collection of nutrients for the Hive Collective.
Please, Doctor, continue telling us about the evolution of the Canidids.
Yes, please. Absolutely fucking fascinating.
The next evolution of the wormling is the nymph raptor. With a hardened carapace and 6 legs made up of 7 segments, the coxa, the trochanter, femur, patella, tibia, metatarsus, and tarsus. The nymph retains the knife-like forearms on its thorax. The entirety of the thorax and abdomen grow fine, oily hair filaments to make up for the poor vision. We're still researching this, but it seems they can sense the most subtle of movement in the air. The mouth also changes slightly from the wormling form, growing 3 extra rows of razor-sharp denticles. These are typically the creatures that are found wandering beyond the Dark Boundary, and causing the most extra-boundarial murders and slayings.
That I can attest to. During my initial scouting of the Dark Boundary, when I first landed on this planet, I killed many of those little bastards. They're tough, but they die.
They certainly do.
Absolutely. The smell never gets better, though.
This is true. The smell actually worsens over time as the wormlings grow into the nymph, and the nymph grows into the adolescent. The carapace also becomes almost bulletproof at the adolescent phase, with the cartilaginous space protruding and thickening. At this stage, the respiratory system completely shuts down until the creature begins its reproduction phase, at which point it will only change again to the full-fledged adult canid. At the adolescent phase, the abdomen also engorges to great proportions. 2 additional sets of pedipalps begin to grow. These aid the male canidid in reproduction. The female does not grow the additional limbs, but do lose their pincer cerci in order to facilitate mating.
So what you're saying is, the females lose the rear defense capabilities to facilitate reproduction?
It sounds like the boys grow ass legs and the girls lose their ass pincers to make hopping on the good foot and doing the bad thing easier. Is that right, Doctor?
In layman's terms, yes, that is correct. Depending on the environment, the hive minds need their other non-reproducing creatures that can be birthed in combat settings, including spore-producing and secreting variations, which is able to recombine the genetic information of any non-canidid creature that happens to get stuck in it.
I believe Commander Branos here has some experience with fighting the nymphs and adolescent versions of the canidids when he was over on the 5th moon of Niro VII.
I do indeed, Zardard. When reinforcements from the Second Company of the Cosmic Knights came to our aid after that horrible Bloomsday Rebellion, I joined them for the initial push on the 5th moon when the canidids first set their stronghold. It was gruesome fighting until I was selected to be the new co-host of the Emperor's Eye.
Did you see any of these hybrid creatures when you were there?
I did see several of the older variants of the canidid humanoid hybrid, but I hear they've changed drastically.
I've heard the same thing. I believe the spore variant of them has growths coming out of their heads and assholes.
It's pretty disgusting. They are very easy to spot.
Interesting.
If I could interject on that bit, the older evolutions of the hybrids had spore funnels protruding from their eyes and anuses. But as the genetic information was more integrated into the hive, the hybrids did take on a more human-like appearance, almost to the point of looking like natural humans or drones. Though they have absorbed both human and drone DNA, it could be a real problem if they begin developing sleeper cells in our society.
Lucky for us, the smell will always give them away.
Oh yes, the smell is one of the key indicators that we're dealing with a canidid.
What exactly causes this stench to be emitted from the canidid?
The scent is derived from the pheromonal secretion produced in the gut of the canidid. It's synonymous with a fart, but much more fluid than a gas.
So it's basically a hot, wet fart coming out of these creatures. Quite disgusting.
That is what it smells like. Just hot, wet ass. All over the battlefield. It's disgusting.
Well, I'm all for it. But it's now time for some hot, wet commercials.
Hey there, welcome to a cup of Joe and Dough. Served 3 ways. Lava hot.
Ouch, that's hot.
Ice cold.
Brr, that's cold.
And medium.
I'll have a lava hot, please.
Sure, sir. Coming right up.
Ouch, that's hot. Can I get an ice cold?
Sure, sir. Here you go.
Brr, that's cold.
Can I have a medium, please? Yeah, you fuckhead. It's fine as spigot. Put your cup under it, you freaking moron. And don't forget, with your cup of joe, our dough is made from the finest ingredients.
Cup of Joe and dough is made from sodium aluminum phosphate, polyglyceride 60, fat intestines, mucous membrane extract, ascorbic acid, hydrochloric acid, yellow acid number 1, breadfruit extract, and lots of sugar.
Good.
Do not ingest if you are not deveined. Working in the nursing chambers can cause temporary blindness, hair growth on the palms, unwavering erection, internal external bleeding, sudden infant death, and skin loosening. Please avoid contact with the eyes and nose.
Don't forget, you can get your cup of joe to go.
I gotta say, I do enjoy my cup of joe, ice cold, with a nice bit of dough, because it's always fresh.
I hear the dough is good, but I'm a bigger fan of the lava hot. It makes my innards flow a little more fluidly.
And don't get me started on medium. It's disgusting. It's pretty gross.
Only savages and beasts go for the medium.
All right, now, Dr. Brevix, let's put pause on discussing the different variants of Canidids and move into discussing the terraforming they've been doing in the Dark Boundary and over on the 5th moon of Niro VII. Would you like to touch base on that?
The Canidid environment mostly consists of methane and carbon dioxide. They cultivate a sort of fungus that helps to soften the rock and compacted biomatter in their nests, to facilitate the growth of their spore carpets. Once these have propagated to a certain extent, the terraforming begins to accelerate much more rapidly.
How far have the Canidid scum progressed with their terraformation of the Dark Boundary and 5th moon? And is there anything we can do to stop this progression?
The 5th moon of Niro VII is approximately 75% terraformed for the Canidids, as it is much smaller than Niro VII. The Dark Boundary, in total, is about 23 to 27% terraformed, and increasing by the cycle. If we don't stop them soon, we may have a very catastrophic climate event on our hands.
So the use of breathing apparatuses will be needed in their nests, as well as hazard suits for occupants.
The atmosphere that the Canidids are trying to establish is quite toxic to humanoids and drones alike. So yes, for non-genetically enhanced combatants, breathing equipment is essential when entering into or around their nests.
So let's go back to discussing these queens you mentioned earlier. What would happen if we were to find them and kill them?
The queens of the hive mind are most likely located deep within the nests, so trying to gain access to them may be a perilous task for our troops.
And would killing them stop the progression of this terraformation?
Most likely, yes.
How many... Oh, my apologies, Doctor. Continue.
No need to apologize. Essentially, the queens are spread out in a grid pattern, so they're able to spread out their spore carpets in a specific radius, usually a few kilometers, until the next queen is needed to control that part of the hive.
And do we have an approximation as to how many queens there are here on Niro, as well as how many there are on the moon?
Not quite yet, but we estimate about 600 to 700 on the moon, and approximately 70 to 80 here on Niro VII.
Is there some sort of ultimate hive queen or king or emperor, something controlling the majority or all of the Canidids here on or in the Niro star cluster? Is there something to that effect?
In theory, there is a sort of hierarchy to how these queens work. So essentially, there is most likely a higher hive mind being, but we do not know exactly what this is.
So if we can find this thing and kill it, we can end this war.
Yes, assuming there's only one.
Fair point.
Dr. Brevix, now that we've discussed the who, let's talk about the how. How can we destroy these Canidid creatures? Tell us more about the new weaponry created by your R&D team and yourself. What can we expect to see on the battlefield?
Well, there's been no change to the 20mm assault carbine. These do quite well in exterminating the mobile units. Some of the new developments in weaponry focus mainly on destroying the fungal carpets. First, we have the plasma cluster mine. It's been designed with atmospheric sensors that can detect increasing amounts of methane and CO2 being produced within a specific radius, and can target a good portion of the fungal carpet. The drawback of this weapon is that it will incinerate any organism within range, which is about 70 meters. These will likely be deployed via airship onto newly forming fungal mats. There was a manned launcher that was supposed to be used with the mine, but that did not test very well within the combat setting.
I've yet to see these mines in action, but here the effect is astounding. From what I've been told by my fellow knights on the Fifth Moon, they've witnessed the testing of these mines, and the devastation is just astronomical. Extremely combat effective. Nixing the launcher was a good move after hearing that.
I can only imagine. Doctor, what were the results of the launcher testing?
It was a massive failure. All of the units involved were immediately immolated.
Is there video footage of this? I'm asking for a friend.
Yes, I'll forward it to you once I get back to the lab.
Perfect. Now, please, tell us what other inventions you and yours have been working on. What can we expect to see on the front lines?
There's a thermal ossification grenade. This will chemically freeze the area, essentially killing all biomatter in the area. We've also developed a hypothermal plasma emitter that can be used on the move against the mobile Canidid units. Once ossified, the bodies become very brittle and easily shatter, with a swift hit from a blunt object or a bullet.
Are there any advancements to the gear of the ordinary guardsmen?
Along with the new weapons, we've created a spore-filtering armor suit for the guardsmen, which allow respiration within contaminated combat zones. They can easily withstand many powerful blows from the nymph and adolescent Canidid creatures. They also have sophisticated stealth tech that can color and shade blend with a variety of terrestrial environments.
And I'm sure our guardsmen are going to be very excited to hear about these upgrades in their weapons and armor, and they'll much appreciate it. We would once again like to thank Dr. Brevix Aphex-SIM for spending time with us today. Once more research is conducted by the R&D team, we'll check back in with the doctor for a continuation of this deep dive, as I'm very sure you are all eager to hear more about the Canidids, the Dark Boundary, and the vile beasts therein.
We'll keep you updated on our progress. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you again, Dr. Brevix. It's been a pleasure.
If you're like me, you'd like to kick back and unwind after a hard shift in the mines or the birthing chambers. The best way to find your happy place is to jack into the Insight Probe 9000. Explore worlds beyond imagination. Become who you always wanted to be without leaving the comfort of your government-assigned lodging. You can battle alongside the Cosmic Knights, slay demon-possessed Canidid beasts, or live a life with your significant other with your vein intact. Order now and find peace of mind with the Insight Probe 9000. Jack into your imagination with the Insight Probe 9000.
Now for some local news. The birthing chambers of Idira have brought forth a staggering 400 new labor-class drones. Unfortunately, 100 of those have been destroyed and or have gone missing in transport to Industrial Sector 3. It's believed it was an attack by the Canidids on the outskirts of the area. This would be the third such incident of its kind over the last half-cycle. Investigation into the event is still ongoing. As for the weather on Niro VII, it appears It's much warmer in the polar regions as of late. The usual minus 60-degree temperatures have increased to as much as 10 degrees above zero in some areas. This has not been all that bad, as with the clearer skies, our astronomy team in the polar region, the Polar Research Sector 1, have been able to receive what appears to be a radio signal from a galaxy 300 plus light cycles away. These are still being deciphered, but once we have an update, we'll broadcast it to the citizens of Niro VII.
The candidates have taken another portion of territory just outside the birthing chambers of Idira. Elite guardsmen have been stationed there under the watchful eye of a trio of cosmic knights. Our newest and quickest rising star of the Heroes 5, Sir Cedric Tallshanks, should be landing here on Niro 7 within the coming quarter cycle. We have a guest spot waiting for him upon his arrival. We'll most likely be deployed to the border of the Dark Boundary in an effort to push back the Horde from working and birthing sectors there. This will be essential in preventing further candidate hybrids from being created, and stealing from our harvest of drones. He'll also be searching out the deeper Dark Boundaries hives in search of those stolen clone vats to further prevent creation of candidate clone hybrids. We wish him the best of luck in this endeavor. Progress on the restoration and rebuilding of Capital City Center is continuing smoothly, with more supplies arriving daily from neighboring systems and planetary governments, which is great news for us, as it means we'll be back in the Solarium Deluxum when the work is completed. I'm sure little Mr. McMarneyface over here will be very excited to have a proper storage container to recharge in.
Absolutely. It'll be nice to be behind the big black desk once again. Hopefully within the cycle, but who knows?
Oh, I absolutely know. I look forward to sitting behind the big black desk. I've been waiting 2 cycles to get into the Solarium Deluxum, and I am very excited.
We may have a couch for you on the side.
Hey,
just kidding. I believe we have a chair being specially manufactured by Mauricio's Manufacturing Fixtures to fit your rather bulky physique behind it. And that's all for today, friends. I'd like to thank our guests, Sergeant Grex Thom and Dr. Brevix Aphex-SIM, for being on the show. And I'd also like to thank you, the listeners, for joining us today.
remember, folks, stay vigilant, stay alert, work harder, and stay away from the Dark Boundary. You will 100% die.
Yes, definitely stay away from the Dark Boundary if you wish to keep your life and body intact.
This is Kazriel Branos of the Cosmic Knights
And Zardard and Kazriel
signing off.
The Emperor's Eye was recorded in front of a live tavern audience within the populace of Niro VII. Please send all donations, mandatory or otherwise, to P.O. Box 117, Solarium Deluxum, 36913, Capital City Center. Questions, comments, or concerns can be sent via your local magistrate of the Technocrat Illuminus. Now get back to work.
The Emperor's Eye is brought to you by your local sponsors. Biogen 3.6. Feel the gel. The Cosmic Knights Recruitment Guild. Be better than the rest. Weight Tech Stims XL. Avoid the weakness of sleep. Cup of Joe and Dough. You can get your Cup of Joe to go. And Insight Probe 9000. Jack in to your imagination.